Welcome to the IoT Unicorn Podcast. This is Pete Bernard from Microsoft. We have a very special guest today. We're going to be talking about long-term technology trends in the IoT space. So let's get started. So coming up is part 2 of my conversation with Gerhard Loots, who runs the IoT practice for Telstra in Australia, down under. And part 2, in that conversation, really good conversation, we talked about robots, autonomous systems. We talked about 5G plus IoT and where it's all heading. So stay tuned and enjoy the podcast. I wanted to, I don't think it would be fair to talk to someone from Telstra without talking about 5G. It's kind of a hot topic, and, they say latency is currency. That's kind of the buzzword. Latency is currency. And especially in the IT space, when you talk about like real-time manipulation of things, latency is kind of could be one of the biggest obstacles to having a successful deployment is just latency of the whole system. But, can you give us a little insight as to where you think 5G will intersect with IoT and sort of jump the shark past the phone space?
Look, my view on 5G is that 4G disrupted the consumer space, right? And because all of a sudden we had speed and a lot of cheap speed available on our phones, which really accelerated, the way that we interact with videos and so forth. But I reckon 5G is going to actually really disrupt the enterprise space more than the consumer space. If you look at what is 5G going to do for us, there's really 3 angles there. One is definitely latency. The other one, which is a bit more techy, but is the network has been optimized for machine-to-machine communication, right? And you will see that in a number of operators are probably starting to hit the phase where they've got more machines on their networks than heads, than headsets and so forth. And that's quite important because it plays quite a big role in terms of battery life. But I'll come back to that. So first one is latency. Second one is optimized for machine to machine. But then the third one is also massive bandwidth availability, right? And that's going to have quite a big effect. So I'll touch on latency. Absolutely, that you're spot on, mate. Like it's I've seen some incredible 5G demonstrations. The most fascinating one I saw was in Japan, where I was in the room when a doctor was conducting a baby sonar scan. Remotely, but it was 700 kilometers away.
Wow,
and he was doing it in real time. The robotic arm was on the lady's stomach, and they was looking at the baby remotely, and that just changes the game again. Back to almost the opening comments of, if you look at the way that we're working today, we're very centralized still, and even if you look at the property trends, everything is trending towards centralization when it actually doesn't make any sense anymore. But if you logically look at our centralization of people, we don't need to sit next to each other to firstly have a relationship anymore, or to be able to communicate. And so having that latency and being able to put people remotely away from their work is going to change the way I think that cities are constructed, even in the longer term, right? So latency is super important, for a multitude of reasons, especially robotics. But then when we look at the machine-to-machine side, the network construct has historically preferenced the way that people act. And the way that people act is, if you take something as simple as switching your phone on and off, I don't even know when's the last time I actually switched my phone on or off, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Because you plug it in every night, and so part of that process means that we're not really re-registering on the network the whole time, right? We're just we're on the network, and the network knows where we are. But when you think about how something like an electricity meter, for example, would act, that thing would go to sleep as quickly as possible, or even a water meter, to be more accurate. Like a water meter, you would try to put the radio on for as short as possible and switch it on off as quickly as possible, so that you don't eat into the battery. So the way that network transaction looks needs to be different to the way that the network transaction looks for a handheld device. And we're already seeing the benefits of that. If you look at the marketing claim on a protocol like NB-IoT, it says that we can get 10 years battery life off a certain packet size if we transmit once a day using 2 AA batteries.
Right.
And all that has done, it's been the network rules have changed a bit, right? So I think that's very important. If we can connect things that previously would not be able to be connected via battery, it means that we're opening up use cases again.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I think the self-powered devices, self-connected devices, that definitely can change the game. I think 5G will give us the kind of high density and also the low latency and also the network infrastructure, the network rules, so that the devices can be a lot smarter on the network, right? So that's good.
Absolutely. And then if we look at the last component of bandwidth, is if you look at cameras specifically, the camera component, if I take you back to my journey even, is that we could accelerate camera deployments because we had high speed availability on fixed line networks, right? And I expect the same pattern. I expect that if we look at camera deployments today, one of the most expensive components of it is actually building the network that supports it. So it's the fiber optics, it's the trenches that we have to dig and so forth.
Yeah, the cables and all that good stuff. Yeah, no, I think that's, I can imagine like trying to get cameras out there, especially in smart city deployments and other things. There isn't a lot of, probably not a lot of budget for tearing up sidewalks and like relaying them down.
Not at all. And again, because it's such a self-correcting industry, if it's too expensive, you can't do it.
Yeah, right. That's right.
And I think that's where, so when you think of 5G cameras, the way we should go about it is you want to use the network without using the network too much. And it goes back a bit to that black screen monitoring concept again, being able to embed a bit of intelligence at the edge and just looking at the exceptions as opposed to having a camera stream 24/7 is really going to disrupt the way we do things. And it will also change the economics of what it costs to transmit a megabyte, I believe, over time. So more cameras, more things on the internet, and new use cases through latencies, I suppose, is the summary of 5G.
Yeah, cool. Good stuff. Well, we are kind of running to the end of our usual budgeted time. We try to keep this podcast to like about 15 to 20 minutes. It's kind of designed to be listened to between meetings. So I try to, as opposed to some podcasts out there are like an hour and a half or like 2 hours, and like you have to like schedule time in your day. So we try to keep this one a little tight, but it's been a good conversation. Any kind of final thoughts or other things you wanted to kind of get in there we haven't talked about yet?
No, I think we've covered a lot. I just think you had one question about what would be my one big bet, and I'm bent towards robotics, and I think we're going to have more mini robots all around us. And because it's like, even if you look at home at the moment, I've got a robotic vacuum cleaner, a robotic mop, and my new favorite is my robotic lawnmower. And, oh man, I love it. It saves me so much time. And I think, but we haven't yet seen that consumer IoT pull through into enterprise. So, we don't have robotic vacuum cleaners really at the office yet. So I think that's about to happen. Industrial robots.
I'm surprised I haven't seen those at Microsoft kind of roaming the halls. We do have a robotic lawnmower outside of Building 99. I think I've seen that. But I heard that like robotic vacuum cleaners are kind of one of the few successful robot markets. Like they really took off, like Roomba and all those things really took off in that market. And it's been hard to sort of replicate that success because the state of where robotics are, and this is probably a whole other discussion, is, the manipulation of the real world, even like all the motion that it takes to take a quarter out of your pocket, all of these kind of motions that we take for granted, really hard for robots. And so like going in circles and vacuuming the floor, that's, you can do it, or going in a square, but then you start to like, it's a big cliff after that, I guess, for robots to do things. And I think that's kind of that is a big area of investment, I think, over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's also, look, we used a number of robots in the manufacturing component in my previous life,
Sure.
and there's been a lot of innovation on that sphere, especially with ABB Robotics. They've got a robot they call Yumi, which is a collaborative robot, which means that you can operate it next to another human being, and yeah, the training on that has been pretty good. I suppose the challenge is movement, right? A stationary robot is, if you look at, depending on how you want to define a robot, but you could probably define that our dishwasher and our washing machine and our dryers are robots too.
True.
They just don't move around. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Movement, and especially movement amongst people, is going to be the challenging one to see it. To see it go.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, great. Well, I'm glad you're able to carve out some time and join us. And it looks like it's kind of sunny over there. I don't know. It's not very sunny here, but
it's pretty good. I'm about to go for a surf, Pete. So.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Gerhard, appreciate it. And I'm sure our paths will cross soon enough.
Absolutely. And thanks, Pete, for the opportunity. It's always good to talk to you.
Yeah, great. All right, take care.
Cheers, man.
Thanks. Bye-bye. This is Pete Bernard. You've been listening to the IoT Unicorn. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for the next pod.